Alright, what's going on, dudes? Trey back again, here to bring you another video. Just got done work for the day, so it's time to make some videos. Yes! Check it. Got a new t-shirt. Walking Dead. I like it. I think it's pretty cool. It was like $10 or something. Anyway, I like it. You can check it out on eBay if you want to pick one up too. Pretty nice. They've got some other cool Walking Dead t-shirts and stuff too, like 10 or 20 bucks. So check it out if you're interested. Anyway, this video is going to be talking about how messed up at this point is Carl. So after everything that the characters have been through in the first two seasons of the television show, and also after that we'll deal with the comic book version of Carl, because there's really two versions of Carl. They're not the same. Like mostly they're the same, but there's some big differences between the two. So we'll start with the TV show. So in the first season of The Walking Dead, we really don't get to see Carl do a whole lot. He's pretty much just like, paying attention to what his parents say, them always telling him to be careful, yada, 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 and, not to get in any trouble and this kind of stuff. And he kind of just stays at the camp, and he doesn't really have any development almost at all. He's behind Lori the whole time. Lori's protecting him. He doesn't really do anything himself. He doesn't really have many lines. He doesn't really say much to the other characters. He develops a friendship with Sophia, but other than that, he doesn't really do too much. And then the second season, we get to see right off the bat, the very first episode, he gets shot. He gets shot right in the stomach through that deer. So obviously, being in that kind of a traumatic or having that kind of traumatic experience at such a young age is going to be a big thing for later on. That really would send home the message in a person's mind, especially a child, that like this is the way the world is, and you're really never safe. You could be just out in the woods, just walking around. All of a sudden, next thing you know, you get shot by a rifle through a deer. Like you're just going up to this nice innocent deer on a beautiful day, and boom, you get shot. And that's the kind of world these people live in. So obviously, that starts Carl off being a little bit hardened right there. And then after that, he of course goes through that. One sec. He goes through that, and then he heals and he battles, and he just barely gets through it, but he lives through that. Then we get to see a lot of other things happen with him at the end of the season, like going up and finding that walker, and then afterwards the same walker that he didn't tell anybody he saw. First of all, we'll slow down for a sec. He sees the walker, right? He goes up to the walker and he plays around with it. He tries to like egg it on. He gets close to it. He does all this kind of stuff with it that he probably shouldn't be doing. Then he takes his gun. He almost gets pretty much killed as a result of it almost getting out of the mud. All these things happen. Then he goes back to the camp, and he doesn't even tell anybody. He steals Daryl's gun, doesn't tell anyone about it. And then it just so happens to be the walker. It's like kind of like a lurker that kills Dale. Oh, man. So, I mean, obviously the effects that would have on his mind as well. And to add to that, also in the episode previous to that with Randall, just nobody can keep this kid under control. Like, they can't keep him in the house. He's like a ninja. He sneaks out, and while there's an execution going on, it's like, anybody seen Carl? There's an execution going on in the shed. Anybody know where he is? And then he just waltzes in on Rick right when he's about to, his dad, right when he's about to, execute this other kid, this teenage kid, Randall. And then to make matters worse, he sees him, and then he looks at him, and he's like, "Do it, Dad, do it." It's just like such a messed up situation. So even though Carl is a good guy from our perspective, I can picture later on in life him just being like this cruel, like badass MFer, that just doesn't take shit from anybody, has no problem killing people, recognizes like being super cautious and super careful in everything he does with the group he's with, and just trying to survive. Just become that kind of like hardened person at such a young age. To go through that psychologically, it's going to affect you more than later on in life. Later on in life, you can rationalize in your mind, you can deal with things in a better way than you do when you're younger. It's still, but no matter what, it's still going to affect you. Like, if we see this a lot with soldiers or people who join the military, or go off and see their brothers in arms killed, or have to kill other people, this kind of stuff. They come back and they have shell shock. They just they can't just live life normally after what they've seen. It's just so hard for them. They can't sleep. They can't care about waking up and going to a job because, you know, they were just killing somebody, you know, this kind of stuff. Like, everything else just seems like it doesn't matter compared to that, you know? So it just changes the game. It's a game changer in the mind. When someone goes through that at an early age, like really young, like Carl in this story, man, the effects that has on the mind is just crazy. You know, like when you look at, for example, what's kind of interesting, I'm not too into this stuff. Like, I don't watch a show that goes into this a lot is Dexter. I'm not big into that, but I have here and there, you know, kind of researched serial killers, for example, because I think that they're kind of like, obviously they're really messed up. You know, anybody who does that kind of stuff is really messed up, right? But there's always the argument, you know, are they born that way? Or did they develop that way through their upbringing and through through their environment? And the funny thing about it is that it's argued all the time, and really there is no you know, one right answer between nature versus nurture when it comes to the debate of people who do things like that. On one hand, you have a lot of professors and, you know, very intelligent doctorate level people who have studied, you know, criminology and this kind of stuff in society, and they'll say that it's the upbringing, and then you have others that say, you know, no, some people are just born to be more aggressive. Me personally, I say it's a combination of both. Both things have to come together to create that. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts, okay? So yes, someone at a young age can witness someone doing something like that to another, like murder, things like that, and that will affect the mind. Of course it will, okay? But also, sometimes those type of people, even though they've seen that kind of stuff, don't necessarily themselves become, you know, serial killers, murderers, stuff like this. On the flip side of that, the other way around it, you know, people can be born a certain way, see nothing, you know, and end up, you know, being serial killers, or, you know, or vice versa, or not. So me personally, I think it's like, you know, it's a whole, you have to look at it, the mind, the body as a whole machine, a person as a holistic thing, so that it's not just, did they see something that caused this? Is it not just, it isn't just one thing that causes it. A person as a whole is affected by both these things, nature and nurture. And when things come together to form a person in that way, they make a choice, they make a decision, because we're not absolutely machines that just follow and do whatever you know, we've seen, or, you know, our biology. We have the ability to make choice, or we at least have the illusion of free will, which is the whole argument in and of itself. But when it comes down to it, when it comes to people who do these types of things, you know, I think it's a combination of both. You know, there's a lot of serial killers you can research and look up, like, you know, very famous ones that were in, like, you know, drug cartel families or mob families, stuff like this. And, you know, I think it's a combination of everything. You know what I mean? And Carl, for example, he seems like he's pretty nice in the television show because he's just a kid. But, I mean, you got to think that all these events that are happening to him are going to affect him. They might actually make him, he might be able to fit into this world better than somebody else, because he didn't really get to experience adulthood in the normal world and then have to change in that way to best live in their world, the Walking Dead world, with having almost no ethics, having no morals, and having to do what you need to do to survive. That's all he's really known. Before that, I mean, he was in school and stuff as a kid, but being able to go into that at such a young age, you have to think that he would just become, you know, it would be a lot easier for a kid who hasn't experienced the real world to, you know, become like that world and become the person that he needs to be in that kind of world. So how screwed up is he? I think he's pretty, the television show, I think he's pretty messed up. Pretty messed up. It's going to be pretty bad. I don't think he's going to have any remorse if he has to kill people. I don't think he's going to have any remorse about, you know, about having to do things to survive. You know, he'll be a lot like Shane later on in, you know, in life. Will he care much about other people? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to care much about, you know, like he'll view them as disposable. Maybe his family he'll care about, like Rick and Lori, and you know, if maybe at some point Carl ends up having kids, which I don't know if that'll ever happen. Probably not on the television show, but we'll see. You never know what happens. And yeah, I mean, I just think that he'll try to always protect his family, but when it comes to others, you know, other people in the group, this kind of stuff, you know, he's going to be like, you know, doesn't care. Oh, also too, I forgot to mention he's an atheist. There's a point where he says to Carol, he's like, "That's another stupid lie," you know, and then he turns around and he walks away. So we can draw from that he's pretty intelligent too. That he's questioning things. I think that an intelligent person questions things. I'm not necessarily saying that atheism is the right way to go, because 80% of people are religious. So let's not get into that debate. I don't talk about religion on YouTube. But at least he's questioning things at his age, and he's got to the point now where he's kind of he's got a lot of mistrust. He doesn't believe everything anybody tells him. So a lot of interesting stuff, and I think that he will become probably more like Shane than he will like Rick, just overall. And messed up from our point of view, but for that world, exactly what he needs to be. He'll become what he needs to be. Now that's a television show version. This version, we'll talk about the comic book version of Carl now. For those of you who have not read the comic book up to this point, this will contain spoilers, so you probably want to flick this off now if you want to read the comic book and you aren't all the way through yet. So I'll give you guys a chance. Stop the video now if you don't want me to ruin Carl's storyline in the comic book. Okay, those of you who are still here, basically, the character between the television show and the comic book version of Carl is very much different. The comic book version of Carl is he's really hardened, and he's older, obviously, at this point in the storyline. He has been shot twice. I mean, the most recent time he's lost his eye. So, Sophia is still alive, so that changes things a little bit. He's killed Ben, okay, when no one else would. So, and he also, Rick has instilled in him by telling him, specifically stating it, you are not safe. Ever. You are never safe. No matter what happens, you are never safe. He's also killed Shane, which he did in the television show, but he was a walker. In the comic book, he killed him just straight up, like G-style, bam, in the throat. You're done. So he's got, let's see, at least 2 human kills, and he's killed zombies too, lots of zombies. I really like the part in the comic book where after they leave the prison and Rick and I almost said Shane, Rick and Carl are on their own, okay, and they're just trying to make their way by themselves. Rick passes out because his stomach infection is pretty bad. Carl defends himself with his gun and gets to the point where he's sort of like I don't even need you anymore. I don't even need you. So, but obviously, a kid like that, you want to have your dad, and he does kind of need him too. And then you've got Rick teaching him how to drive and all this kind of stuff. So again, it's sort of similar to the television show, just years ahead in the comic book, because he's become even more hardened. And also, I don't think in the television show they're gonna remove his eye. So, but that too, the fact that he's removed an eye, that he's gotten an eye, he's lost an eye. That's going to affect his ability to protect himself too, because then he's not going to have depth perception, and he's also going to have trouble driving, doing stuff like that because of the depth perception. So I don't know, and it's his left eye too. I think that is it still his left eye? Yeah, he's got his left eye still. So that's, I don't know, man. That's got to affect his ability to defend himself. And how screwed up is he? Well, I mean, physically he's screwed up because he's missing half of his face and his eye. Emotionally and stuff, man, he's a hardened, badass mofo. He'll do things that nobody else will do at all. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I'll call it here. It's going on 14 minutes. Hope you enjoyed it. How screwed up is Carl in the comic book and the television show? He's more screwed up in the comic book, I think, at this point. But either way, he's hardened. He's getting used to living in that world. Later, guys. Peace.